On a sweltering July evening in 2024, the sprawling Willow Creek neighborhood in Asheville, North Carolina, erupted into chaos as the annual Independence Day celebration imploded. The park, decked out in red, white, and blue, went pitch black mid-anthem, silencing the speakers and snuffing out the fireworks before they could even spark. Hot dog grills hissed their last, and a kid's wail pierced the stunned silence. Someone shouted about sparks flying from the stage. At the heart of the madness stood Marissa, the self-anointed empress of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, hammering a lifeless megaphone like it had personally betrayed her. 3 days earlier, she'd had my backup generator towed away with a smirk and a flimsy violation notice. Now, as emergency lights flickered and furious neighbors waved flashlights, I leaned against my porch rail, sipping iced tea, watching fate unfurl in a glorious, star-spangled disaster. Life in Willow Creek was supposed to be idyllic, a tidy suburb where every lawn was manicured and every mailbox painted an HOA-approved shade of gray. I'd moved here in 2022 to be near my aging parents, a short walk away, and to find some calm for my remote job as a network analyst. What I hadn't bargained for was Marissa Thornton, the HOA president who ruled like a general with a vendetta against individuality. In her early 60s, with a scowl etched in her face and a clipboard she wielded like a scepter, Marissa was obsessed with control. She'd once slapped a $400 fine on a family for planting tulips a week too early. She'd threatened a retiree for displaying a non-regulation porch flag. And then she set her sights on my generator. It all started during a brutal summer storm that knocked out power across Asheville. While neighbors panicked over spoiled groceries, I fired up my sleek, near-silent generator model I'd bought to keep my work online and to help my elderly neighbors like Mr. Dawson, who needed his CPAP machine, and Mrs. Lila, whose diabetic husband relied on refrigerated insulin. I'd quietly run power lines to their homes during outages, a small act of neighborly duty. My house, glowing softly in the blackout, drew grateful visitors, people charging phones, storing meds, thanking me with tired smiles. Everyone was appreciative, except Marissa. The morning after the storm, as power crews buzzed through the streets, Marissa pounded on my door like a debt collector. Flanked by her posse of note-taking lackeys, she jabbed a finger at my generator, humming discreetly by the garage. "That's unapproved equipment," she snapped, eyes narrowed. I stared, incredulous. "It's a generator. We had a blackout." Her response was icy. Temporary devices needed HOA registration and couldn't be visible from street. Never mind that it was tucked behind a shrub, invisible unless you trespassed. When I pointed out I'd had it for years without issue, her face twitched, and she hit me with a $250 fine and a warning to remove it or face further action. I filed an appeal through the HOA's Byzantine system, but before it could even be processed, Marissa struck. I came home from grocery run to find my generator gone, a tow notice taped to my door like a taunt. It had been hauled to the HOA's storage shed for compliance review, conveniently timed just before the 4th of July, when heat waves promised more blackouts. Fury lit me up, but I didn't yell or storm the locked HOA office. I saw the flyer plastered on every mailbox, a lavish, HOA-funded Independence Day, extravaganza live music, food trucks, fireworks, all powered by a temporary system from the same tow company that stole my generator. The audacity was almost laughable. Marissa had swiped my equipment to fuel her ego-stroking spectacle. That's when I decided, no more appeals, no more arguments. I'd outsmart her, and I'd do it with precision. I started digging. A local electrician, a young guy named Ethan, let slip that the event's generator setup was a cheap, timed auto-kick system prone to overload. I called in a favor from my old colleague, Nate, an engineering whiz. He brought a signal delay test-era legal device that could trip breakers under specific surge conditions. We weren't hacking. We were just nudging the system's own flaws. We calibrated it to detect the inevitable spike from the stage's LED walls, which Marissa had foolishly prioritized over stable power. The plan was set. On the night of the party, Marissa strutted around in a sash proclaiming HOA president, barking orders through her megaphone, oblivious to the storm brewing. I sat in my backyard, tablet in hand, monitoring the setup. As she took the stage for her grand speech, right as the fireworks were cued, the surge hit. The park plunged into darkness. Speakers screeched, then died. Fireworks fizzled. Marissa's megaphone went silent, and her screams echoed uselessly. The crowd's confusion swelled into chaos, and I sipped my tea, watching her empire crumble under the weight of her own incompetence. The next morning, Willow Creek woke to an eerie quiet. Abandoned lawn chairs littered the park, popsicles melted in coolers, and an inflatable eagle bobbed sadly in a tree. Marissa's frantic email blamed a vendor glitch, but nobody bought it. Her reputation for micromanaging made the excuse laughable. At the hardware store, picking up a new surge protector, I ran into Mr. Ellis, a retired plumber who'd been ousted from the HOA's maintenance team. He leaned in and whispered, "Best show in years. Whoever did it, hats off." I just smiled. Word was spreading, and I wasn't the only one fed up. Stories of Marissa's overreach poured out. The bounce house vendor hadn't been paid. The fireworks crew was unlicensed. Elderly residents like Mrs. Harper confided they'd suffered without power because Marissa took my generator. Neighbors shared screenshots, emails, even recordings of her threats. The blackout had shattered the fear she'd weaponized. I called Nate to ensure our actions were airtight. They were. The device had simply triggered the HOA's own faulty panel. Marissa, meanwhile, doubled down, calling an emergency meeting and accusing vandals of sabotage. Her sweaty, flag-themed blouse and wild claims only fueled the anger. When someone demanded reimbursement for ruined equipment, she dodged, muttering about insurance. Then I dug deeper. HOA financial records, which Marissa stalled on releasing, revealed a mess. My security camera footage showed her directing the tow, smirking, saying, "We'll use it for the party. He won't miss it." I shared this with Tom, her former vice president, who'd quit after clashing over budgets. He handed over damning documents. Budgets funneled to Marissa's allies, fines redirected to community events like her failed bash. Armed with evidence, I didn't sue. I organized. The flyer I sent was simple. Community gathering, Saturday, 6 p.m., Maple Park. No HOA approval needed. Bring your stories. I expected a handful of neighbors. Instead, the park overflowed. Kids played, jazz hummed, and lemonade flowed. I stood on a bench, shared my story, the generator, the tow, the blackout, and laid out the financial mismanagement. The crowd erupted in applause, not for me, but for the truth. Stories poured out. Fines for clotheslines, threats over handrails, fabricated violations. A tech-savvy neighbor projected HOA budgets, exposing thousands misspent on Marissa's pet projects while sidewalks crumbled. The forum Marissa controlled shut down as posts flooded in. She tried to ban unauthorized gatherings, but it was too late. A councilwoman's aide called, inspired by viral clips of our revolt. I spoke to a civic committee, not for revenge, but to expose the system. A petition to oust Marissa hit 85% of the neighborhood in days. At a candlelit vote, she was removed near unanimously. Her megaphone sat untouched by her empty chair. A moving truck hauled her away a week later, a lone firework popping feebly as she left. Willow Creek bloomed. Fences turned vibrant, porch concerts sprang up, and the HOA's new board transparent, accountable began untangling Marissa's financial web. An audit revealed $50,000 misallocated, some to her sister's company. News outlets covered our revolution. A block party, dubbed True Freedom Day, sealed our rebirth. As I spoke under string lights, surrounded by neighbors, I said we'd reclaim power, not just electricity, but community. A new resident, Clara, moved into Marissa's old house, joking about joining the HOA with no clipboard. The generator sat in my shed, a quiet symbol of what we'd won. But here's where it gets messy. Was I right to sabotage the party, even legally? Should we have sued Marissa instead of shaming her out? Did our revolt empower the community or just replace one power struggle with another? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories that spark debate. What would you have done in my shoes?